So COPE's fallen on its political sword, as you've been hearing, condemning the outgoing mayor of Tshwane, Dr. Murunwa Makwarela. And he's not only resigned his mayoral position, but also resigned as a councillor and member of COPE. President Willie Madisha telling the media an hour ago that the vetting process was clearly not followed and that it is going to go back to the province, Gauteng, that endorsed him to find out how he became a councillor in the first place. So to talk about these developments, let's bring in one of the coalition spokespersons in the Tshwane, in the city of Tshwane, FF Plus leader, Dr. Corne Mulder, legal analyst Mpumelelo, Zikalala, and political analyst Lukhanyo, Vangqa. Good evening to all of you and welcome. Dr. Mulder, let's kick off with you. I know you were reacting to what Makwarela was saying there, but I want to really focus our discussion in a different direction. You're in a multi-party coalition with the DA, Action SA, and ACDP. Makwarela's election surprised many. It ended your reign as coalition leaders there. Were you and your coalition party sitting on this dirt waiting to trigger in the year? There's been a year that he's actually held office as Speaker.
Let me start off by saying just one correction. I'm not the leader of the Freedom Front Plus. I'm the chief whip of the Freedom Front Plus.
Apologies.
No problem. The fact of the matter is I can unequivocally say to you that we were not aware of this information. We became aware of that after Dr. Makwarela decided to do what he did, and then a person from the public came with this information to us, and we then acted on that information. I can assure you and the listeners, if we were aware of this information at any stage, we would have acted against him right from the beginning. One of the founding provisions of our coalition agreement is no corruption, transparency, etc. We would not have tolerated that. So to create the impression like what I've heard earlier today, and I heard some of the co-people suggesting that we've been sitting on this and waiting for an opportunity is simply not true.
So this idea that you were protecting and hiding wrong things, that you were dishonest, you reject out of hand?
In total, out of hand, it's not true, no.
All right. I want to come to you, Mpumelelo. I want to maybe just share with our viewers your analysis on how this whole saga has played out. And bear in mind that in the very beginning or along the way, he tried to paint himself as a martyr in all of this. And maybe the public would have been predisposed to forgiving him because, you know, something went wrong. And if you did your dues, then you should, you know, be given the opportunity to prove otherwise. But he lied.
It did definitely, and that is something which is unforgivable. But it opens up two very important factors. Firstly, there's a loophole when it comes to the vetting of potential or current councillors. And the question then is, how many other councillors are actually insolvent or should not be occupying their official positions? There's no register in South Africa in which we can tap to you and I and be able to check whether this person is eligible to be a councillor or not. When it comes to criminal proceedings, it's easy because you simply fill in your SAPS forms, you go there to the police station, they'll come back with your prints telling you that you do have a criminal record or you don't. Also, let's also point fingers at the IEC in terms of saying they have the power. In fact, the Electoral Act is very explicit to say that the person who is in charge then can then say, I am objecting to this particular individual being filled in as a councillor because there's some adverse finding which is against him, which points or gives that particular things of saying to them, you are going to be attached or being the opportunity of vetting these particular individuals before they come in. The political party, again, must also come in because it's your brand that must be protected. Also, the council, because you have a councillor that you've been paying all along, just make sure that this particular individual is eligible to be there. And the usual vetting process will have to be there, as you would do whether you're employing any other person or any other municipal employee in that particular structure. But I think it has opened our eyes in terms of saying, let's look at legislation, make it more explicit, look into how insolvency is then taken care of in South Africa, especially when it comes to positions in which one cannot occupy if they're insolvent.
I mean, but also there are a million opportunities where somebody would be unfit for purpose in terms of their credibility or past misdemeanors and crimes. There should be a blanket approach to making sure that you vet candidates accurately. Lukhanyo, I want to put this question to you. What responsibility, if any, does the IEC bear here in terms of ensuring the credibility of candidates who are on nomination lists and then in the election process?
Good afternoon, Iman, and to the viewers and the fellow panelists. The IEC raised the issue of resources because it takes an extraordinary amount of resources to vet each and every candidate that is put on a list by a political party. If you recall, there's about over 206 municipalities across the country, and each ward of those municipalities has a ward councillor candidate. And you have I think last year, 2021, you had the largest number of political parties contesting elections. So the IEC simply doesn't have the resources to vet each and every candidate that is there. So there needs to be some progressive way in which the IEC, over the time, the people that are eventually elected into these positions, then approach through some sort of scrutiny, even if it's a basic verification, service to just verify their qualifications, verify whether or not they have criminal records, and not simply rely on the declarations from these politicians and their political parties. However, to vet everyone that contests for office in terms of resources, it's going to become simply too enormous a task for the IEC to carry out.
Yeah, it's a politically expensive lesson that COPE is learning today, and it is a sermon for the rest of the political parties to go back to the ground, to their branches, wards and so on, and make sure that every candidate that they're putting forward is indeed worthy of the position and doesn't have scandal attached to them. Dr. Mulder, I want to circle it back to, obviously, the most important issue. The reality is that every opportunity lost due to a lack of leadership, and we've lurched from leadership crisis to leadership crisis in the city of Tshwane, it leaves the city deeper in the crisis of service delivery, waste removal, electricity, the billing complaints, so many administrative outstanding matters. The city was due to table its budget adjustments. The AG report still has to be addressed. A bank of issues which should be taking priorities, yet these are again being pushed back. What do you say to the city's residents?
Well, first of all, I absolutely agree with you, and any political party that wants to be part of government in the city of Tshwane will, foremost on their mind, should be what is in the best interest of the residents of the city that you want to serve. And obviously, in terms of our coalition agreement, that is service delivery and to bring the best service to all the residents throughout the city. Now, you correctly pointed out all the challenges that we've been facing all along, and unfortunately, we have not been able to really make progress in that instance. I'm talking from my perspective, and the problem is part of the destabilization that we experienced was, I think there's a concerted effort and a decision taken by the new Premier of Gauteng to get control over these metros. And in terms of doing that, they need to topple, obviously, the metros that we've been governing as a multi-party coalition. I heard the regional chairperson of the ANC earlier said today in this interview just now, that they're not interested in the mayorship. That's not correct. We all know what the real answer is, that the ANC and the EFF can't agree on that, and that's why they opt for smaller parties in the meantime. But absolutely, to us, it's an absolute priority. And I think one should all just remember that the election result of November 2021 cannot be changed. The election result of 2021 gives the five parties in this multi-party coalition a majority in the city of Tshwane. So the moment that we have our numbers sorted out in terms of people being loyal and the right people in these caucuses, we will have a majority once again and we will govern. So it's a question we are eager to get going. We've got the mayoral candidate. We will have a candidate for the speaker position ready, and we are ready to govern. We've had a problem internally, first of all, with the resignation of the previous executive mayor. And then obviously we did have a problem where some people internally voted were not with the coalition, so we need to sort that out. But the focus should remain obviously on the best interest of the residents, service delivery. We cannot continue as is, and I would appeal for maturity from all the parties, also those that are not in the coalition, that we need an agreement and understand. Let's stabilize the capital city of Tshwane, of our South Africa, and get the whole process going. And that means let's elect the speaker, let's elect the mayor, and then govern in a responsible way.
Dr. Mulder, were you blindsided by the DA's move?
Which one?
The move of producing a certificate and challenging this notion that he was rehabilitated.
No, we were not blindsided. The moment when that certificate appeared, and remember now, Dr. Makwarela on Wednesday sent a letter to the municipal manager indicating that he will produce a certificate before end of business on Friday. He provided that certificate yesterday morning. My training is legally, I'm also an admitted attorney. The moment I saw that alleged court order, I knew this has to be fake. And we started to investigate immediately. It was absolutely clear that we have a fake situation here. We had to go through the process, and we have got all the evidence, not only of the certificate, but also other evidence from the trustee in that, etc. So it was quite clear from the beginning that we've got a problem. Luckily, it came to a quick conclusion, and I can confirm that the Hawks has already been busy with the investigation as from this afternoon.
All right. I know that I've only managed to get a question each to Lukhanyo and to Mpumelelo, but I want to appreciate all of you for being on our panel tonight. There's a lot more we can discuss on this, and I appreciate the insights that you were able to share with us tonight. Thank you. Coalition Spokesperson, FF Plus Chief Whip, Corne, Dr. Corne Mulder, Legal Analyst Mpumelelo Zikalala, and Political Analyst Lukhanyo Vangqa.